Hi guys, today is April 23rd, 2020. Futures are higher a little bit after unemployment job number came in at 4.4 million, and that was a little bit a relief because people were expecting a higher number. So and I was expecting higher numbers. So futures are jumping higher. People are a little bit optimistic about opening the economy, and let's jump to SPY. Stock symbol SPY ETF, and this is trading higher, of course, and I don't know if I want to buy SPY, and like I told you before that I'm very careful in buying stocks because after we open we may go lower actually because people realize how much damage was done to the economy, but at the same time we have to stay with the market and look for pockets of opportunities. So pockets of opportunities you will get. So let's talk about oil, because oil is a big factor in the SPY going higher this morning actually, and let's talk about a USO. USO is trading higher a little bit because oil is jumping about 20% this pre-market, but they have announced a 1-to-8 reverse stock split. USO did, and that means that for every share you own, for example, you own 8 shares, now you will get 1 share, but the price will increase 8 times. So that's not usually good news when a company announces a reverse stock split. And so I will be jumping head first into USO. And you have to be careful with these products, these ETFs, because in reality they shouldn't be called ETFs, they should be called ETCs, because exchange trading fund, not exchange trading funds, but exchange trading commodities. Okay, so there are a lot of questions on oil tankers I received, and I have a video listing some of the oil tankers, the oil crash video that I posted yesterday, and where I explain what happened to oil and how we can profit, and I list some of the tanker companies that I liked. But in general, to understand how to invest in tanker companies, you have to understand how this whole oil thing works, and how the contango, that's called contango, works, because contango is the difference in price between the spot price, which is today's price, like June delivery contracts, and future deliveries month ahead. So if the difference is higher, so for example, like the spot price for today is trading at around $16, and September price, for example, is trading at $27. So it's higher, so the market is in contango. So obviously, if you buy today's spot price, you can make money in a future stock in the future because of this spread between the prices. But you have to make sure that you can store oil somewhere. So these oil are being stored in right now in oil tankers. So the bigger the difference, the more these buyers can pay to the oil tankers. So if the spot price is jumping higher, then that means that it's a little bit smaller spread. So the buyers can pay less to these oil tankers. So it's I'm just throwing this for you to understand what happens, what's happening, and how it works. So let's jump to other corporate news. CSX. Okay, that's a railroad company. Reported not bad numbers, in-line revenue, beat on EPS. I mean, in general, it's a little bit it's a little bit boring for me to invest in this company. I mean, it's a pretty good company and I like it, and in general, it's a good long-term hold, but it's not that exciting because it's not moving that much. So it's just it's a personal pick for me. That's just personal preference for me. Okay, so Apple. Okay, so Apple had several news that acknowledges the security flaw in iPhones that hackers could have used to steal data for years. It's also, on a separate note, it was downgraded to outperform from buy by Daiwa Capital. And also the big news is it plans to offer its own processor chip in 2021. That means that they will get rid of Intel processors. And in general, Apple is a little bit too high to me. I'd like to buy it a little bit lower, tell the truth. But let's jump to Intel. Intel is trading pretty much flat, but the Apple news about replacing Intel chips is not such a big news for Intel because it's not their big business, but it's a little bit of a reputation hit to Intel. But they're expecting to report earnings, I think, after hours, and we'll see what happens. I'd like to see what they report and what they will project for the next quarter. So DFS, Discover Financial Services, they reported numbers, and they swung to a loss because they had to allocate more money for loan and credit losses. But in general, the earnings, I didn't think it was too bad. And I think closer to $30, it's not a bad buy in my opinion. But they're very exposed to credit losses, and especially student loan losses, and that's a little bit too exposed to me. So I'd like to buy it a little bit lower. So closer to $30, I would be okay to buy this. Okay, so Delta Airlines said that they are planning 1.5 billion notes offering, and Raymond James reiterated outperformed with the price target of 36 on Delta Airlines. That's actually good news because a lot of people were afraid that Delta and other airlines would follow the example of United Airlines and start issuing more shares, and diluting shares. So airlines were sold off yesterday, and that's the Delta offering today is kind of a relief in investors' mind. So I also like LUV, and they will report earnings later. And I actually kind of like JetBlue. JetBlue pretty low in my opinion. I would be cautious about UAL because they issued shares, and I don't know in what stage they're in right now. I'd like to hear what they say about their earnings. And AAL, I'm also cautious, even though it's higher, because they have a big debt. Okay, so DVAX. Okay, so it's Dynamics Technologies. It's the biotech. It's trading high. Reported collaboration with Valneva. It's another European biotech to advance vaccine development for COVID-19. That could be a swing trade to me because it's trading pretty low, and maybe it can open higher, then go lower, then again go higher. It's a swing trade to me. I'm just throwing this in to consider. SNBR. Slip Number Corporation, they reported pretty good earnings, beat on top and bottom, and obviously a lot of people are trying to buy mattresses and sleep this time, and I think it's trading pretty low in my opinion. It came down a lot from $61, and I think it's not a bad buy. I mean, let it open. I would let it open higher and then try to buy it lower. But in general, pretty good earnings. They cited pretty good cash position, and I think it's not a bad buy. Okay, LVS. Okay, Las Vegas Sands. They reported not so good numbers, even though they're trading higher, but they're hoping to reopen in a casino in Asia very soon. So people are very optimistic about Las Vegas Sands, but in general, I'm not a big fan of casino stocks, and I'd like them to come down a little bit more because we never know what's going to happen, how many people, how people will react on reopening casinos. So I would stay away from now, and but maybe under $40, it's worth consideration. AA reported better than expected quarter one beat top and bottom, but warns on COVID-19 effect. In general, I don't want to be in metal and aluminum stocks in this environment, even though Nucor is a pretty good company in my opinion, better than others. FLR. Floor Corporation, it's an engineering and construction company. They reported that they won 8-year contract with Air Force, and that's good news for this company. It's a very little company, came down a lot, and I think that's worth to buy, in my opinion, at these prices. Okay, O'Reilly Automotive, it's a producer of auto parts, and they reported very good numbers actually they're trading higher after their report, but they withdraw the guidance, and in general O'Reilly is a very good company, but I'd like it to come down a little bit to buy it. Okay, so STX. Seagate Technology is the memory chip company, and they reported pretty good numbers, being top and bottom beat. I'm not sure why they're trading lower. Probably they cited the effects of the coronavirus and the disease. And I have to dig into the numbers more, because I want to understand why it's a little bit lower today. But in general, the first glance, I like the numbers for STX. LRCX reported not so good numbers. I mean, they were okay. I mean, they were pretty much in line, and they're trading lower a little bit. If it comes down to around 250 area, I would be interested in LRCX. Eli Lilly. That's a pharmaceutical company, reported pretty good numbers, beat them top and bottom, but they said that COVID-19 could impact sales. But in general, I like Eli Lilly, even though it's a bit too high to me, so I'd like it to come down a little bit before I buy it again. PHM. Polta Group, that's a home builder, and they reported decent numbers, actually beat on revenue in line, but they cited that traffic slowed down in March, so I don't want to be in a home builders at that time. Netgear is a networking company, and they have said that, they beat on top and bottom, but they said that there will be supply restrictions due to COVID-19. So the stock is trading lower. In general, I'd like this stock to come down a little bit, but my favorite one in this group is PONW, Palo Alto Networks. Okay, so TSN, Tyson Foods, they reported they are closing the processing plant in Indiana, and because almost 2,200 workers were tested positive for COVID-19. That's not good news, but the stock is not reacting too much. And but in general, you don't want to be in a stock that's closing plants and reporting coronavirus cases, so many coronavirus cases. And the last one I'll give you is Target. Target reported pretty good digital sales, but weren't on higher labor costs and unknown effects of coronavirus. But in general, I like Target sales and numbers. So if Target goes below 100, I would become interested, actually, and it's almost there. So that's it, guys. That's a wrap for the day. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, click the like button, and I'll see you tomorrow.